Welcome to Trevor's Kitchen Garden. Here I have a packet of carrot seeds. I'm going to sow them directly. Unlike most of the seeds I sow in this small garden, I'm not going to put it into pots so that I can plant it out when it starts to germinate. I'm going to sow directly so that the seed becomes a carrot exactly where I put the seed. That's better for the carrots. They don't like to be disturbed. First of all, I'm going to put some stones into this large pot, as large a pot as you can find really, because the carrot roots need plenty of space. And those stones are going to help with drainage. Fill it up with very fine soil. I've got the finest soil I can find in the garden here, and that's also good because carrots don't like to be in any rough soil or any fresh compost. And we'll get on to the sowing once I've got the pot filled. Well, I've got the pot reasonably filled up. I'm leaving a couple of centimetres around the edge just to put another skim of soil on and to make sure that when I'm watering it doesn't overflow, but it is as full as it's going to get. This lovely earthworm here now is a very good sign because the soil is fine due to the action of the earthworm over a number of years breaking down the compost. There's no fresh compost in here. In other words, if there was little pockets of fresh compost, the danger is that the carrot seed would be searching out, the roots would be searching out for the compost, and it would result in forking, and that's something you don't want really in growing carrots. They don't look their best when they're forked. Some interesting shapes, mind you, but the idea is to get a good straight carrot, as that's generally what you want a carrot to look like. However, I'm going to just in a best way as I can, because they're tiny little seeds, carrot seeds, tiny little seeds, is to try and sprinkle them so they're not too crowded. Now if they are too crowded, it's not the end of the world. Once they come up, they will be possible to just pull out. If there's two beside each other, just pull the one that's weakest and leave the healthiest looking carrot. Now I mustn't be greedy and I mustn't overdo it, but just a little bit more, I think. It's amazing when they come up, they just sort of come together. The leaves just start meeting when they grow a little bit, and that's plenty. Even though it looks like there's space to spare there isn't really. The seeds are on the top, not really visible, but they're there. And then with a small amount of soil, as fine as I can, so I'm just going to take out the bits of stones that are there so that it's I don't want to have stones on top of the seeds. I just want to have a nice piece of soil, a nice skim of soil really, and I'll pat it down because once the watering can goes onto that, I don't want the seeds being washed from one place to another. And ideally with a watering can at this stage of the process, it should have a rose on the top so that it gives us a spray of water as near as possible rather than a gushing torrent. And this will start the seeds off without washing them away. Well, that's really it. That is going to be the start of the carrot bed. Another advantage of having it in a pot, of course, is that it's high up. And the carrot root fly, which is the bane of many carrot growers, is supposedly only able to fly around about to this height, you know, around about sort of 18 inches or so. So it's hopefully going to be possible, as it has been every other year, to grow carrots without any infection from the carrot root fly. And we'll see how they come on in the next couple of weeks. Next to the radish. So this is the radish growing area. Because radish grows quite fast, I will plant each of these window boxes with seed each week. And by the time the last window box is being sown, the first window box which will be on the go maybe 4 or 5 weeks at that stage, will be ready to harvest. Which means that in succession, as I keep week by week sowing a few seed, I always get a window box that's ready to harvest the other end of the scale. So with that in mind, the seeds are in a jar which is sealed away in the fridge when it's not been required. I have a couple of types of radish in here. The Irish Seed Savers in Scarlett and County Clare sell one called Scarlet Globe Radish, a very old one, going back to the 1890s in terms of being a variety. And then there's the more normally one that you find in the shops, which Brown Envelope Seeds sell organically as French Breakfast. Lovely one. This time I know French Breakfast very well. I'm not so familiar with Scarlet Globe Radish, so being the adventurous type, I'm going to have a go at growing it. As I am going to sow these, I noticed that nasturtium is growing completely of its own accord. It was in the compost from previous year. I'm not going to take it out because nasturtium is a beautiful leaf and flower to look at, as well as indeed quite peppery and tastes great in salads. So sometimes the weeds that you come upon are actually going to be your friends, and you want to keep them. So we'll plant the radish or sow the radish around them. Again, I want to do it thinly enough, not just because the radish doesn't want to be too thick, but there's only so many radish anybody can eat. So this is just a week's supply, in other words, that I'm talking about here, because the next week I'll sow more and more after that and so on. So a couple of dozen radishes probably is enough for anybody, unless they're totally addicted to radishes. Now, those seeds can go away safely, kept dry and dormant as a result until they are required from that jar. Nothing much to do now other than put a small skim of soil over the sown seeds. Again, pretty fine soil, just as I had with the carrots, because you want to be able to spread it out, not have it too lumpy. Now once this is done, it'll just be patted down as with the carrots and watered probably every day, just to ensure it doesn't dry out. That's it really. With a bit of water, we're in business. Probably would it be better to have a rose at the end of this watering can, but the rose I had has got gummed up really, so it doesn't really work. Probably should have used tap water rather than water from the barrel, because the water from the barrel inevitably will have some bits of grit in it from the gutter in the roof. However, the radish has started. Next week I'll do the next window box and so on, and we'll have a harvest of radish every week to some extent throughout the summer. Thank you, and we'll see you next time from Trevor's Kitchen Garden. Slán agus Banach.